Welcome back to the channel where I go and actually give you my recommendations up front, and then you stay tuned a little bit longer to go and actually have me justify why I gave it those recommendations. Today, we're going to go and actually take a look at Apple Cider Vinegar on Netflix. Now, if you're the target audience for this type of series, meaning that you're a fan of crime dramas, fraud dramas centered around fraud or social media, or even like healthcare type of things, I'm going to go and actually suggest that you watch the first two episodes of this series. Now, if you're casual, you're not really a fan of those types of genre, but you're just trying to figure out if this is actually worth your time, I'm going to go and actually suggest that you watch one episode of this series. Now, stay tuned, and I'll go and actually break it down for you.
Cancer. It has 90,000 likes. She does not have spleen cancer. Always know what you put in your body.
Apple Cider Vinegar is a biographical crime drama that premiered on Netflix in February of 2025. The limited series contains 6 episodes that run about 60 minutes each, and it stars Caitlin Dever as Belle Gibson, Alicia Debnam Carey as Melia Blake, and Aisha D as Chanel McAuliffe. I feel like I was a shaky landing on enunciations, but I tried. But IMDb synopsis has it this way. The life of wellness guru Belle Gibson, who had a large social media following where she pretended to be suffering from cancer but keeping the disease under control using self-care therapies, she confessed that none of it was true. That is crazy, buck wild. Now, this series is based on the book The Woman Who Fooled the World by Bo Donnelly and Nick Toscano. This series is meant to look into like fake wellness, social media, alternative medicine, and their effects on society as a whole. Now, this touches on sensitive topics like, cancer and terminal illnesses, abuse, mental disorder, and a host of other things. And so I can definitely understand the need for stories like this to be told. And I'm always interested in like well done dramas. But for me, I'm not probably really the target audience for this kind of series. It's a large Australian cast as well. So on top of the topic, I don't have a whole lot of like star power here that I would gravitate towards or anything like that. And especially when it comes to like social media, I'm not really a big fan of like big social media followings and things like that. There's just a lot of different topics and reasons why I'm not the target audience here. So I'm going to go and actually be looking at this through the lens of being a casual viewer. The reason why I go and actually let you know that is you should always know the view of your reviewer before taking into account the recommendations. I watched the first 2 episodes on new streaming content on streaming platforms just to see if they're right for you. I watch it so you don't have to. If you like how that sounds, do me a favor, click like, share, subscribe. And now let's get into some observations. So in episode 1, there's interesting storytelling between kind of like a interview / interrogation tactic that's being used in episode 1, and it kind of carries over to episode 2 as well. And so what it does is it kind of uses the current day situation, and then it kind of flashbacks to previous years and characters and things like that. So there's an interesting framing around the way that they're going to tell it in the first couple episodes. The pacing is pretty decent, just because of the various different insights you're supposed to be getting from the Belle character and the Mila character that you don't spend too long with any like one character, what have you. So the pacing keeps you engaged. There's some serious topics and situations, as I stated before, that make it a very heavy episode to watch in this first episode. It really does kind of pull at you a little bit. The main characters of Belle and Mila are really good, as well as the guy that's like interrogating her or interviewing her or what have you. I like all of those characters as a whole. They're really strong, and they really bring a lot to the characters. It's not necessarily a cliffhanger off of episode 1, but it's meant to kind of further the story along. So it's not really, it's not clickbaity. It's not like one of those ones where it makes you go and actually want to binge on there. It's just an intriguing story that if you're intrigued by episode 1, you want to click on over to 2, but nothing that you're like, oh my God, I have to watch 2. So that's kind of how the way that they leave you. In episode 2, you get more focus on Mila's health and rise to fame, and then Belle's backstory on why she does what she does. Because keep in mind here, again, you have someone who rose to fame and then faked an illness throughout this entire time. And you kind of wonder, why would somebody go and actually do this? Why would they go and actually go that deep into it? And we get the rise of one person's story and that other person on how they kind of how they look at that person and things of that nature. So there's a lot of interweb things that go on in a relationship cycle with these people. Pacing is pretty much the same in episode 2, so you kind of really get that back and forth type of dynamic. There are some occasional fourth wall breaks that kind of annoy me in this series, and while it's not like a whole bunch of them, so it's not like a Deadpool type of thing or a lot of these other types of shows on there, it's still enough that you're just like, okay, if you really want me to take this seriously, you probably want to go and actually do away with those fourth wall breaks. It's just something for me to mention, just because it just was like a little bit like, that's weird. They dig into more of the reasons of Belle's character, and Belle is obviously the one that you're really focused in on who's done the crime or what have you. And they give you equal portions of things for you to not like about her and to piss you off. And then there's other things where they actually give you like, okay, I have some empathy for her. I see some of that. And so I think the series does a good job of giving you both sides of that, and kind of makes it a little difficult to kind of figure out which way you're going to go with this and how you're going to judge her. The second episode, as far as like the ending, it isn't a natural builder into like wanting to binge this. Again, it's either you're getting into this story and you want to continue. It's like reading a pretty decent article. If you like the first couple paragraphs of an article, then you just like, okay, I got to read it all the way through the end. If you get that introductory paragraph and it's like, this is kind of interesting, but it doesn't matter to me how this ends on there, then you kind of just fold the paper up, fold the book up, whatever, and keep it moving or whatever. This series kind of feels like that to me. Either you're going to vibe with the story or you're not. So that's kind of how I felt about after watching the first couple episodes of this. What type of stories is this series like? Some of the stories that I would say that this is very much like is Inventing Anna on Netflix. Very close to that. I could see a meeting of those characters if they were the same universe type of thing. It was just that close on there. A couple other stories like Dr. Death that was on Paramount. I think that was a pretty good series. And then Dope Sick. I think those are going to be some common threads that you're going to see throughout this particular series. I think material that you take some inspiration from, and you could go and actually watch those to go ahead and actually feel like, okay, what type of vibe I'm gonna get from the apple cider vinegar type of thing on there. So that's what it's like. So when we're going to actually look at the decision to use the format of Jump Between Now and going back to different characters and their backstories and things of that nature, it's always interesting when shows do that. It's done a lot nowadays, and I think it's because I don't think that a lot of streaming content makers, they don't get the promises of like a full network series and get the commitment of like kind of green lighting like a 15 or 20 episode season. They get a truncated 6, 8, maybe 10 episodes to do things on there. So instead of being able to kind of flesh out a story in chronological order or something of that nature, draw it out a little bit and dive into those characters, they have to truncate this. And so giving you flashbacks are kind of like the easiest way to kind of give you motivations and backstories and things like that. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. This one, it works for the most part. I think they do a pretty decent job on there. There's some other times where you kind of get a little confused as far as like which character we've gone back to or how far back we've gotten to, and it might take you like 30 seconds or a minute to figure out like, oh, okay, this is about such and such, or oh, this is a few years ago, whatever. And it's not super bothersome, but every now and again it can kind of be like, oh my god, okay, I'm gotta keep up, gotta take notes and keep it moving on there. So someone else that kind of detracts a little bit from it. Kind of interweaving the purpose and the intent throughout this story helps give the viewer kind of like a roller coaster of emotions of, again, like I said, sometimes you feel empathy, sometimes you feel loathing, sometimes you go and actually feel hopeful, sometimes you feel despair. And so this series does a really good job of kind of getting you on an emotional roller coaster throughout the series. And again, it's only been 2 episodes that I watched, and I could go and actually say there's a few different times where I'm like, oh my god, this is crazy. Some of the characters, what they did and some of their actions kind of gets on your nerves a little bit, and they're based off of, at least I think most of them are based off of real actions. Sometimes things are put, Hollywood kind of does things to make things more dramatic or whatever, but sometimes they just really are like people are that brazen or what have you. And so some of the motivations or some of the actions kind of got on my nerves with some of these characters, what have you. And that was a little crazy in the storytelling. And then lastly, again, just mention it again that the fourth wall breaking, not a fan of that. Didn't like that. While it wasn't the worst thing in the world, again, a little off-putting. With all that being said on there, I'm going to go and actually give storytelling a solid B in this particular series. When you talk about acting, if an actor makes you both cheer and jeer for them as a questionable main character, they're doing their job. And Caitlin Dever was definitely doing her job as Belle Gibson. She played everything up and down and in all kinds of different ways on there every time that she needed to. She's definitely able to emote feelings in her face, and you can kind of see where she's like pissed, or she's taken aback by somebody, she feels offended, or she's feeling like, oh, I got this in the back or whatever. Like, she's really able to convey that, and I really like that about her character. Alicia's character, Amila, isn't quite good as Belle's character, but still effective. You kind of see her as kind of being like the determined person to make sure that she beats her illness and overcomes and things of that nature. So her life story was done well. I think Belle's story was done a little bit better, probably because she's a little bit more of a complex character because she has some of the the bad tendencies and all that kind of stuff. But both actresses did a very good job. What I think Caitlin Devers is just like a notch above. The other character that I liked on here was Phoenix Ray as Hike. I just like the interview and the interrogating. He's kind of like that baseline character that kind of calls people on their BS, and I like that his character was pretty cool. And I don't know if I like him going forward because once you got to the end of episode 2, not sure if I'm going to like him or not. But at least in the first 2 episodes, I was good with him. All the other supporting cast was at least decent. Like, nobody was horrible. There were some people that were kind of like average. It was kind of like, anybody could have done those roles. And there's a couple other ones that are pretty decent. So overall, some solid performances on here. I'm going to go and actually give acting a B+ on this series. Overall, I like the series. It's definitely something that I could see watching to the end if I kind of felt like I'm cool with being disappointed in humanity. It's just because it's definitely a downer if you really kind of think of everything all the way on through. But it's well acted. It's solid storytelling. And so I think casuals can go ahead if you like the subject matter or you like the characters in here. I think you're going to find some entertaining value in here. For mains, my presumption is for you mains on there are going to really gravitate to the series as being one that can be impactful of telling these kinds of stories, whether it is because of the healthcare aspects of things or the social media influence and how that happens out there, or like fraud crimes, like people trying to go and actually get over on a system or what have you. If you're a fan of those types of series, this is probably going to be a series that's going to really speak to you and you'll probably dig it pretty well. But that's what I have for Apple Cider Vinegar, now showing on Netflix. Check it out.
Let's start from when you first lied about having brain cancer.
You stayed for the entire review. I appreciate you. Do me a favor. If you liked anything about this particular review, you thought it was on point, go ahead and actually give me a thumbs up. Share with some folks if you want some other folks to go and actually see a little bit of this breakdown on there. If you really liked it and you want to go and actually see more of my videos, go ahead and actually subscribe to the channel. And if you don't like any of this, go ahead and actually comment below. Let me know what you didn't like or anything like that. But until the next time, oh man, how can I tell you otherwise? Go ahead and actually watch one of these videos that the algorithm thinks that you might like of mine, because the more videos that you guys watch, the more that other people will watch it too. But until the next time, I'll holler at you. Take care of yourself.
Now that's a happy ending. Or is it? Because everything's over now, and all that's left is you and the infinite void.